Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Hilltop Pillbox here in Abbotsford, British Columbia, Canada. And as you can see, we are playing Axis and Allies 1914 and watching All Quiet on the Western Front here on Netflix. And so we're looking forward to seeing some of this play out here, and ever so thankful that we were born where and when we were, so that we can just play games about this stuff and not have to go through horrible things like this. So for those of you who do serve, my utmost respect and my hat is off to you, because you're doing things that I have never done and never will do. And utmost respect for you. And thank you for your service, regardless of where or how that is. Now, on to the game. I like to always say what my plan is. Now, this game is a bit of a sticky wicket, because sometimes you can feel as though, oh, you know what, like, look at all this stuff that Germany and Austria-Hungary have. They should be able to dispatch Russia in about 3 or 4 turns. Unfortunately, the French do have a lot of stuff here, and if the Germans can't get rid of the British home fleet, well, the British will start landing troops. Not many to begin with, of course, but they can end up landing 6, 8, 10, 12 at a time as time goes on, and that's essentially just like another entire build and then some for the French. So the Germans have to kind of divide their forces east and west. So we are going to try to take out Moscow. And unlike what I normally do, I am going to play with the Russian Revolution rule, because I think that favors the CP quite a bit. If you don't have to kill every last one of the Russians on the board, that's a good thing. Now, the bad part about it is that that's lost income for the Germans. So the Germans tend to only get about $8 or $10 out of the Soviets. Not yet. Out of the Russians, when they do play with the Russian Revolution rules. So we are hoping that that will still be enough, and the savings in manpower and equipment will translate well as we then try to push west. But we are going to divide our forces here between east and west. I am going to implement my personal Italian house rule, where every turn Italy rolls a die. And so on round 1, if they roll a 1, they are in the war. And at the end of round 2, if they roll a 2, they're in the war. Okay, so whenever they're in the war, of course, you stop rolling. But the caveat is that Italy does not make $14, to build up a huge thing. But they do get 7. So they're going to be able to build 1 man, 1 artillery, or they can save it and for a couple of rounds. But they will not be a factor on the first round. Ergo, Austria-Hungary cannot attack them, which also means Austria-Hungary doesn't have to worry about them on the first round. So Austria-Hungary can kind of throw caution to the wind, use the Trieste troops to attack Serbia with some Budapest help, but while the rest will go after Romania and Ukraine. Poland, probably take a poke at, and then see if the Germans have to come in and clean it up. So that's our plan for today. Africa is Africa. Doesn't really get an awful lot of love. But the Middle East, with the Ottoman here, can be a very interesting theater. So we'll let you know. Over here, the Americans, obviously waiting until turn 3 or 4 to enter. I'll have to check the rules again, because we've house ruled that one so many times, it's hard to tell. All right. That is where we're at, folks, and look at that nice, peaceful scene. That would be nice, but unfortunately, that's not happening. So, all right, off we go to battle. How will it go? All right, here we are. Round 2 is about to begin, and pretty standard stuff here for the opening, but lots and lots and lots and lots of hits. There's been a lot of carnage. Russians lost a few divisions over here. The Austro-Hungarians lost everybody from Galicia that had gone into Poland. They were wiped out. The Germans came in and they lost 4 divisions, I think, to 6 units. Down in Romania, the Austro-Hungarians did all right there, and in Serbia they did all right, only losing 2 units there and 2 units in Romania. But up here on the Western Front, my goodness. So the Germans went into Belgium. I guess I should flip this over now because they don't own it. And got absolutely wrecked by the French counterattack. Now, the French took a lot of losses doing it, but yeah, that really blunted the Germans. Now, the Germans do have a lot of stuff as well, but as we know, they're embroiled in a two-front war here. Italy did not roll to get into the war, so they are still not at war, so they just put 1 man, 1 artillery. And while before they're at war, I don't let them move. So all their stuff has to stay where it was. Down in Africa, the Germans did what the Germans do and took Nigeria, Belgian Congo, and French Equatorial Africa. They attacked Union South Africa, and it was a stalemate down to 1 man on each side. But then the man from Rhodesia came in. It was 2-1. Both got a hit, but the British are the only ones to survive. So they're going to start gobbling up all this stuff down here, but they do have to get rid of them. And the way I do it, leave a comment in the comments below, leave an idea. I tend to bring the 2 transports down here, picking up these guys along the way, and then I bring them over here, drop them off, and just add what I can here. I don't know if anybody bothers grabbing an artillery somehow. It would take an extra turn to get down here. I figure more boots on the ground is what they need. So I do that. So the Germans came in and wiped out the home fleet. So I brought this one over from Canada, dropped a few guys off here in France, and the French have moved their battleships and cruiser up within striking distance. So not sure what the Germans are going to do, but yeah. They're doing okay. They're doing all right in Russia here. Should be okay to move forward. And France, of course, is wide open in the south, but that'll get closed quickly. Over here, the Russians evacuated Sevastopol by coming down into Mesopotamia, and as you can see, there's a Russian roundel there. They actually won that fight. And then the British, instead of taking Persia like they normally do, they just sent... Oh, I actually got way ahead of myself there. Ha! They can only send 2 guys. And then the rest of these guys would be back in India, so they'll have to fight Persia. Sometimes just get a little ahead of yourself. So, yeah, we're going to have to fight Persia here. I'll let you know how that goes in just a moment. So here we are. It's the end of round 1. Persia notwithstanding. Round 2 coming up. Okay, just a little update on my mess up here. It actually went well for the Brits. They got 4 hits and only took 1 casualty. So Persia's all tidied up. And there you go. That's all there is to it. On to round 2. Round 3 is about to begin, and some interesting things have taken place. We'll look up here first, and the Germans were able to get rid of the lone Russian infantry. And the Russians were able to get rid of the stack of Austro-Hungarians. And they did so quite well. Now there is a large stack here. These are both 5. So there's 12 infantry and 2 artillery there. And the Germans have a healthy bunch there in Poland. So Russia's not out of the woods yet. But, yeah, they held on to some decent territory. Down here, you just saw the Persians fall to the Brits. And now we have the Ottoman Empire punching into Mesopotamia, trying to take that back. Did some damage, but not quite enough, and took 7 casualties doing it. So they are kind of hurting right now. And with Ankara is now wide open to the British to walk in and grab it. Some decent forces at home, but again, they lost Transjordan on round 1, which is never a fun thing to do. Down in Africa, the French landed. I had put both Germans here instead of splitting them up. I figured it might be harder to kill 2, but nope, they got them both, and both the Germans missed. And so that's it for Germany and Africa here on round 2. That's fairly unheard of, so that they're gone by round 2. So there's that. Italy is not in the war yet, rolled a 6. So just built a couple more guys, man and artillery. Up here on the Western Front, the Germans had some good success in Belgium, defeating the French army that was there. Then the French came in here into Lorraine and tried to do some damage, but not enough, not nearly enough. Their plane is alive, but the Germans have another plane and another plane and another plane. So the Germans are well stocked with aircraft should they lose a battle. And the British built a couple of transports. We're going to start shucking guys over here this turn. So if the Germans want to try to stop that, they'll have to attack Picardy, but they just don't have the horses to do something like that at this time. So I might be throwing good money after bad. So likely not going to do that. And the Americans, as they did, held on to their money. So the rules state it's at the at the end of the third turn, the beginning of the fourth turn, end of the third turn, the Americans may join the war, as it were. So how does it say here? If not at war at the beginning of the fourth turn, they will enter the war at that time. So this is just round 2, so they got to go through round 3, and then off we go. So pretty standard stuff so far. Good embroiling here on the Western Front. The Russians are reeling on the Eastern Front. The British are starting to chip away at the Ottoman Empire down here in the south. Germans are out of Africa. And Italy is doing nothing, except building up a little bit of stuff in Rome. Very modest, but just a slight build-up. And the Austro-Hungarians, I honestly thought they would be in the war this turn, so I started moving stuff over. But alas, it did not happen. But as you can see, Austro-Hungary is pretty thin over here, so the Germans are definitely going to have to come in and help things out as best they can. All right, on with round 3. Should be interesting. All right, so turn 3 is done, and the heat is on here in Russia. And they are, they're likely Russian Revolution could happen next turn. But we shall see. I decided to plant everything here in Ukraine. We've got a large stack here of 13 units. And we got a decent sized stack here. Not huge, but that's another 6 units plus a fighter. And then the Germans have some good stacks here. So I decided to bulk up. You can't just turtle in Moscow when the Russian Revolution is in play, because all they need to do is capture 3 territories that border Moscow plus 1 more. So that's typically Poland. And yeah, that's all they need to do. And then Moscow is either Russia-controlled or contested. So, yeah, Russian Revolution is definitely going to happen, but it's not, not as close as it normally is. But we'll see. We'll see if the Russians can somehow maneuver their way out of this mess. But we'll see how that goes. Down the south here, the Ottoman were actually right on the ropes here. They were down to these 2 territories. They were able to take back Smyrna, and they've got 8 troops there and 3 artillery, and of course there's no British stuff except the lone guy here in Africa. So they will have to be starting to utilize their navy, I think, to shuck some stuff over from India to kind of stop the bleeding. Really big battle here. Well, not huge in numbers, but important, and they got exactly the number of hits they needed to wipe out the British contingent, and now they're free to roam. So that is not good news for the British. And they do have Mesopotamia all locked up, mind you. They were able to dispatch them, and then likely we're probably going to bulk up a little bit before we start heading towards Constantinople. Over in Africa, you can see the Italian guy is still in Italian Somaliland because, yeah, they did not get in the war. They rolled a 5 and they needed to roll a 3. The Germans are also out of Africa now. They are gone. They took a lot of British with them, mind you. Seemed like whenever the British got a hit, the Germans would get a hit. So they are all done. Over here, this continues. I don't think I mentioned it last turn, but the Austro-Hungarians sent in a decent force into Albania and knocked it down to 2 units, and then this turn only got 1 hit. And so they're doing a little bit of a stare down right now, but Austro-Hungary will likely take Albania this turn. And like we saw before, good stack in Sevastopol. Got some planes going here and decent forces here. And just waiting for Italy to pull the trigger on the war. Middle of Germany is really bare because everything's been headed out here, and they have really taken it on the chin in France. They are playing defense right now, so they're going to start moving some stuff over. You can see some newly built tanks that are going to head over and try to get to the Ruhr before the French do. So that's the Germans now. They've really got to get going. See, the French are here. And they got 7 infantry divisions there, and built a lot of artillery this turn with a fighter. Have come over to Portugal. We're going to shuck those 3 guys back on over. And all these guys down in Africa, they're going to hop on the boats, and they're going to come back, drop a guy off in Togoland, and but make steam for Europe, getting the fight. British built a couple more of the transports, transported over another 2 artillery and 2 men. So trying to help out the French as best as they can at this time. And the Americans are finally decided to spend some money. What I like to do is just save up the first 3 rounds. It speeds up the game a little bit. And then at the end of on turn 3, you do their buy. And their buy is very simply 6 transports and 4 artillery, and you save $4, and or $14, pardon me. And so they have enough stuff to send over 6 loaded transports. You could do another transport, another man, another artillery, but I like to have a little bit of punch in the second wave as well. So we're going to leave that for the next purchase. So they'll come over and likely take Spanish Morocco. Sometimes I take Spain. If I've got a lot of guys coming over, sometimes Spain is a fun one to hit and then get a little bit of help from the French if they have the ability to do so. But typically the Americans have to take it. But that extra $4, sometimes $5 is pretty handy. Pretty handy. But usually by this time, things are looking pretty dire over here, and they're not right now. So maybe we'll take a poke at Spain, but time will tell. We'll see how we're feeling at the end of this. See if the Germans are starting to look a little scarier. And again, Russian Revolution, highly likely that it'll happen next round. This round it'll set it up, and then next round it'll likely happen. But we'll let you know. Here we go. Austria-Hungary, back at it. Okay, round 5 is about to begin, and before I get any further, I screwed up the math with the Americans. I knew it was 56, but for some reason my brain went, no, it's only 46, but I knew it was 56. Don't worry, I didn't screw it up. Okay, here we are with the Russians, and they were able to coagulate back in Moscow here, and they'll be able to launch out in a number of different directions. So they could actually stave off the Russian Revolution a little longer, which I'm happy about. I'm not a big fan of the rule, but I understand why it's there. Some historical accuracy going on there. Another thing I'd like to point out is all these wonderful plates here. You can put the stuff, and you take a big army and you put it there and put the army on the card. Haven't had to use them yet. There have been so much death and destruction, it hasn't become a problem. We'll start down here where the Ottoman have been able to right the ship a little bit. They've been able to push out some Brits. The Brits were not very strong in there, but they pushed them out, and now the gate to Africa is open. The Brits do get to go first, though, so they'll probably close it before these 2 units can try anything. And lots and lots of artillery for the Brits over here, and the Ottoman have their fair share as well. So we'll see if the Brits come at them. They do have a fighter, which can be quite telling in these battles. Austria-Hungary, got its butt kicked. I have never had a game where the Austro-Hungarians actually do well. Let me know in the comments if you have, because I don't know what goes on. Even here, they couldn't take Albania. No hits. And, Things are now going to heat up for them, though, because Italy is in the war. They rolled a 2 here on round 4, so they are now in the war. And yeah, now Austria-Hungary gets to go first, as they always do. And so they can head into Venice and see what happens from there. But putting a little bit of pressure is always a good thing, but it is going to draw resources out of Russia, which might give Russia a bit of breathing space. All right. Oh, I forgot to make one move. I didn't move these guys. There we go. I knew it was supposed to look worse in Poland for the Russians. I forgot to move them over because the stuff that was in Berlin moved that way. You'll notice I have some other tanks here. Those are from Historical Board Gaming, and they are very cool. I highly recommend picking some up. I also have some Russian tanks, and I hope I have the chance to actually show you that. So if they can fend off one attack, and they do have over 20 artillery here and 2 fighters. That was the problem with the Austro-Hungarians, by the way. They had 2 fighters versus the 1 Russian fighter in Ukraine. Yeah, 2 rounds later, there's no more Austro-Hungarian fighters, and there's still a Russian fighter. So now there's 2 Russian fighters and a ton of artillery. There's 2 German fighters as well, though, so... And they have a lot of artillery. Not as much as the Russians, though. So the Austro-Hungarians still have to push eastwards. All right. Africa is still Africa, and the French, of course, took Togoland from the Germans, so no more colonial holdings for the German Empire. Americans landed in Spanish Morocco, and it was kind of an Operation Torch thing, where there really wasn't an awful lot of casualties. In fact, there were none for the Americans, and they just wiped the slate clean, and they'll be headed over here. And now that Italy's in the war, the American troops can actually land in Italia. So that will be interesting to see. And yes, as I said before, I did screw up the math, but I did have enough money left to buy a couple of transports and a couple of men. And now the shuck shall begin in earnest. All right, I'm not really sure what else to tell you at this point, because you've all seen this before, where Germany kind of sticks its neck out a little bit too far, and because they're going after Russia, there's a bit of a problem here. So they are going to have to back up, or they are going to get trapped and destroyed. So they're going to back up to Alsace. This larger contingent will head towards the Ruhr. They'll join up and hopefully cause some trouble for the Allies. Yeah, things are not looking good for the CP once again. And now that America's in the war, that certainly doesn't help things. All right, round 5 coming up. Everybody's in the war, even Italy. So look out. What could happen over here? Stay tuned. Round 6, and I decided to just do something just so you could see it on the board. There is the big SAR tank. It's a real glossy paint, so it's sometimes hard to pick up the detail. But yeah, that's a majestic beast right there, I'm here to tell you. But like that, you can see the stuff. That's from Historical Board Gaming, and then my lousy paint job. But work with what you got. So the Russians struck out from Moscow and destroyed the Army Group North of the Germans. And the Russians and almost got rid of the Austro-Hungarians. There's one guy left. So the Germans came down thinking with all this stuff and another 6 or 7 guys that they could wipe out 5 artillery, 1 man, and they would be wrong. So they ended up getting, out of 14 dice, they got 3 hits. And that's it, 3 hits. So the Russians remain, and even Belarus remains contested. So right now, it's nowhere near the Russian Revolution, and, well, we got some problems, but we'll talk about them in a bit. Over here, the Ottoman Empire decided to turtle a little bit because of the Americans. They had 12 units landing, and we didn't know where they could go, and thinking that they might land in Greece, which is right attached to Constantinople, we thought, maybe we'll just protect that area. So we backed up. After we had punched out and gotten a lot of territory, we decided to back up a little bit and bulk up Transjordan a little bit, but we're handing some stuff to the Brits that we likely wouldn't keep anyway. They've got tanks coming in, and of course that protects you from taking hits. So they're on the horizon here. So I decided just the better idea just to get while the getting's good. Now this is becoming a very difficult game to play because, well, it goes back and forth so wildly. Yeah. But I think the Allies are looking like they're doing pretty well here. I know they weren't called that. They were the Entente. And they're looking pretty good here too. Even Russia has been able to hold on. Over here, of course, the Italians in the war, the Austro-Hungarians punched in and had a good tilt and were able to take care of quite a number of Italian troops, but not all of them. So they are holding on, and we built ourselves a plane, and we took Albania. Lost one guy, killed one guy. But then we were able to land the Americans unopposed, which is a big deal, getting all 12 of these guys ashore without getting shot at before. Up here on the Western Front, the Germans are back in Belgium, but they did back out. And they do have some good forces here, though, so the French and the British better not overextend. But now that they are bringing over, they brought over some Canadians, which is always a good thing in war. They have bulked up their numbers, and again, it's starting to look pretty good for the Entente right now. But there's a lot of dice to roll yet, and we'll let you know what transpires. We got these 3 units in Morocco. That's all I could afford to buy last turn. But I figured 3 is better than nothing, so. And as you know, then, the pickings get kind of slim for the Americans. So you can either save up over a few rounds and build a big flotilla again. These guys here are going to head back now, likely, unless they see something that they can do. But that usually doesn't happen. This is a pretty good spot, too. You can start gobbling up some of the Central Power stuff, and you're threatening the big money. So we'll see what we do. Got to kind of play it by ear. And we're going to get our last 2 French guys from Portugal and bring them into the battle. All right. On to round 6. And I'm going to go have supper, so I might finish this tomorrow. But for you, it'll just be a moment. All right, round 7 is coming up, and yes, it is the next day. I just did round 6 here early in the morning. I went to the gym, and no power. I love getting to the gym, driving across town at 5 in the morning, and then there's no power. But who does have power? Well, Russia has power. Look at this. They've been able to push the Hun out and have taken over large swathes of land and actually have a stack of 14 artillery that are threatening the German homeland. So the Germans have had to send stuff east again, which they did not want to do. Here, Austria-Hungary is kind of holding on. Not really any kind of a threat anymore on this side of the board. Now the Russians were able to grab Sevastopol. And they're able to do that because the British have things well in hand here. And even the French came over and sniped Smyrna from the Turks. And the Ottoman Empire is dying on the vine. Not going too well. So this side of the board is looking really good for the Entente. Transjordan, of course, it was just taken by the British and no losses. There were 1 artillery and 2 men. And yeah, the British took it. Again, the hits come in bunches. It's amazing. How are things looking for Austria-Hungary at home? Not good at all. So I had the Italians here. I was going to have them take Trieste, but I thought no, because there's just 3 of them there. And so I put them there, and the only thing that can hurt them is here. But I'm not sure the Austro-Hungarians will do that, but they may have to. And even that's no guarantee because they only have 4 units. But I put the Americans up in Trieste because that's 12 units that the Austro-Hungarians now have to deal with. And that's going to be a tall order. And it's funny how as soon as I said I wasn't using these things, I've kind of got them all over the place now as the numbers have gone up. Now, I really don't need the Austro-Hungarian one anymore. There's just 2 tanks and 1 man left in, what is this? Venice. And the Italians have been able to get a good bunch of guys up there. So I also brought in the French. That was a gamble, but they had been able to marshal enough stuff here, and I knew the Brits were going to be able to help them out, that we're going to hold the Germans at bay. Now, who do the Germans have in Alsace? They got a good stack, and some decent reinforcements along the way here, but the British and French definitely outnumber them. There's the French stack, and then here's the British stack, and yeah, they definitely outnumber them and outpunch them, but of course that's in defense because they can't attack together. So mano a mano, the Germans would win, but this is the point of the entire game, is to get the British stuff across the channel. So the last Canadians will be coming across this next turn. Americans have a very humble build coming over here to Morocco, and I've got the 6 transports coming back. So I built 6 men, 3 tanks, and I'm going to build up a rather large landing force, possibly of 8 transports full of stuff. We'll see if we can afford it. But that's where we stand right now. Looking like the CP is dying on the vine right now. Not an awful lot of hope for them. They're going to have a real big victory somehow, somewhere. The Russians will pull out of Poland here because we don't want to get hammered by, all those troops there and lose all our artillery, because we've only got 1 man as cover. And so we're probably going to pull back. And, yeah, I'm not sure what Austria-Hungary is going to do. They're probably going to have to also pull back to Budapest and try to protect that. But as soon as the CP is having to play defense, that's pretty much over. And that's what the Ottomans are doing, and that's what Austria-Hungary is having to do. Germans not yet, but they are not outside their own borders at this time, except for Holland. That is it. They've lost all their stuff, so they're actually down $2 from their opening money, because they've lost, of course, everything off in Africa. So looking like an Entente victory. I'll play another round here, and unless something really big happens, I think the CP is doomed to repeat history. Here we go. Well, that was not a good round for the Central Powers. Yeah, Germany was able to snipe Poland back with 1 guy, but other than that, they have lost. Russia snuck into Galicia, snuck into Romania. Constantinople is decidedly under siege at this point, and the Albania is under Italian rule, as we know. They did take back Serbia, kicked out the Italians, and didn't suffer any losses, but Trieste is definitely not doing well. And we do have the armor markers here, but they're markers in name only. Yeah, so 3 tanks and 1 man. In there. The Italians don't have much either. They have 3 artillery, 1 man, and a fighter. But the French are there and will likely make a spoiling attack. And the Italians are in Tyrolia. Just 1 guy, but it's enough to take it. And so threatening Munich, Bohemia, and Vienna itself to a lesser extent, of course. Now, the Germans do have quite a bit of stuff here, but it's very centralized, and so they're going to have to really work at pushing towards Paris. That's going to be the goal now, and this is what we've got. So a good stack here. 19 infantry, 6 tanks, and 7 artillery. So not a terribly bad force, but I do believe that the French and the British together will be able to stall them. And there's not much of a follow-up immediately. You can see the British have landed here in Holland and have taken that and are looking forward to causing all sorts of grief in German homeland. Now, one thing I've actually always wondered is they call this Holland, but we know that Holland is more like, provinces or states. It's the Netherlands is what it should be called. So if there's anybody here who is Dutch or knows the history of the area, can you let me know if this is a misnomer here? Did they do that wrong? Or is that acceptable to people from the Netherlands to call it Holland? Just wondering. We know that if you ain't Dutch, you ain't much. So, you know, let me know. Let me know the truth of that. That's something that's always kind of befuddled me about this map. Over here, we can see that the French have been building 6 men and 3 artillery, and they'll likely do it again this next turn and just keep feeding that towards the front. So, yeah, the Germans, we might regroup in the Ruhr. We might bring our army back to the Ruhr and start feeding stuff in, but that's just obviously going to give more time for Paris. So I think we do have to go for it. And then follow up with these units and cause all sorts of grief as best as we can. And the Americans now have 7 artillery, 7 infantry on 7 transports that are going to be coming over. So that's a nice healthy landing if they're even needed, but we'll see. If any of these capitals fall, that's obviously the game. Some people say, oh, even if Constantinople falls, the CP can win. I've personally never seen that. Maybe you have. Leave a note in the comments as to kind of maybe a weird way that the CP actually does pull out a victory, because that would be interesting to see. All right, so that's it. We're on to round 8. Will Constantinople hold? They do have a lot of stuff here. They do have about 25 units or so more than what the British can handle. But those tanks are going to shield them from a lot of hits, so we'll see what we see. I don't think Vienna's really under immediate danger, but really depends on what this army does. Okay, Berlin's safe, but for how long? All right, well, it's coming down to this. It's not as dramatic as a battle for Paris, but it is the battle for Picardy, and this is the first battle for Picardy. And depending on how this goes, so goes the game. So here are the 2 opposing forces. So you see the French here, they have 26 infantry, 14 artillery, and 2 fighters. All right, so they've got 40 units and 2 fighters. The Germans, on the other hand, they have 19 infantry. They have only 7 artillery and 6 tanks and 1 fighter. Now, unfortunately for the Germans, the French are attacking. So the French do have an advantage here. The tanks, of course, will not be absorbing any hits. But we will. Let's see if we can get this all in the... Get this all on the screen here. It's pretty close. Okay, so we're going to start with the fighters. We have 2 French fighters, and there's a 1. You can see it up there. So that's it for the German fighter. Will it take revenge? It will not. Rolling a 6. So the German fighter is gone. And now the 2 French fighters get their strafing runs, and there's 1 hit. So right off the bat, the Germans are down. 1 guy, we'll just take him off of there. All right. Now we have the, let's get these set up. I thought I had them set up nicely, but now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, let's do it this way. All right. So these are all the infantry that are paired up with the artillery, and these are the unmatched. So we've got 12 at 2. 12. So 12 at 2. It's looking about right. So 4 hits, which is what you should... Actually, you should get fewer than that. So that's a pretty good start for the French. So 4 hits. And I was going to use the other die. Well, I think this is likely the last round, but this is round 8 that we're on right now. So that's 4 hits on the Germans. And then we've got 14 at 3. So that's 6. So 6 is 12, and 2 more is 14. So these are at 3. These are the supported infantry charging in. That's a good roll. Well, maybe not. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 more infantry. So that's up to 11 now. All right. I think my D20 isn't going to be enough here, because now we have 14 at 4. 14 at 4. Well, we do have a number of 5s and 6s here, so maybe it's not all that bad. Actually, it's not a great roll. At 4. We should get more than half, and we got actually exactly half, so 7 more. So that takes it up to 18 hits. So 18 hits have been placed onto the Germans. And now the Germans will respond. They've got 6 tanks, and those are at 1. So not really great for the tanks. Oh, well, they got 2 hits though, so good for them. That's double what they should get. So that's 2. And we'll put that there. And then we have the infantry and artillery are all defending at a 3. So we've got 16, 17, 18, plus 7 is 25. So 25, there's 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25. All right, so 25. These are all at 3. So we will see if the Germans can take a toll here on these French. And it doesn't look like they can, so I'm just going to remove all of the misses. Wow, that's a lot of 4s. Wow, a lot of 4s, a lot of 6s. So not a good swing by the Germans. For half, they should have gotten about 12, and it looks like they got 8 hits total. So the French will lose 8. Minus the 2 here is 10, so they lose 10 total. So 10 hits for the German, 18 on the Germans. These ones aren't going to do them any good here in round 2, unfortunately. And the British are attacking next if need be. So that's 12. And then they have 17, 18. All right. Yeah. So had I kept the tanks, there would only be 6 men left, and 6 tanks and 7 artillery. So I think this is the swan song for the German army. This is like November 1918, trying to get your last little attack in. And the French have responded with no. Let's see how you say that. Vous ne passez pas. Yeah, you shall not pass. All right, so that was the French, and the French are just about to place. Their build is 6 men and 3-4 artillery. So that's 10 units that they just placed in Paris, and the Germans, don't look too healthy right now. But we'll carry on here. We're just going to do the British attack now because, that's just the way we're going to do it. We'll just bring in the Brits and see if they can't deal with something. We're also going to land 7 more guys. Now, the German artillery will get shots at them before they land, but I'm sure some of them will survive. So 7 shots of the Germans. Oh, wow. They got 6 hits. Only 1 miss. Okay, well, my mistake. So 6 hits. I'll just put that guy there and take out the 6 chips. Wow. I was thinking losing 3 or 4. Losing 6 out of 7. That's pretty bad. All right. So now we've got, for the British, I should have built a fighter last turn. Oh, well. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we'll grab 8 infantry. All right. So we're going to have 7, 9, 10. So we have 13 at 2. 13 at 2. And then we're going to have and 16 at 3. So first we got 13 at 2. Not good. 3 hits. 3 hits. 13 at 2. 3 hits. Not good. We don't even need a big die for that. All right, so that's 12. We need 4 more for the 16. Now 16 at 3. 16 at 3. Oh, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good roll there. I'm not gonna lie. That could be it, actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Nope, that's not it. I forgot the Germans have a lot of guys here. So that's 11. Oh, they got 10 hits. That's 13 total. So that's 11, 12, 13. All right, but you can see that the Germans are now in a really bad way. So they've got 13, 14, 15. They got 19 at 3. 19 at 3. Let's see what kind of a toll they can take from the British Expeditionary Force here. Not much. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 hits. 5 hits total. That'll just be a dark blue chip. And so this is what we have left standing at the end, is the Germans have 1 infantry and 5 artillery. And the British have a lot more. And of course the French have even more. So I think that's probably it. Really no need to worry about Constantinople at this time. Up until this point, though, the Russians, they have gone in, took Bulgaria, took Budapest, and brought their whole thing up here into Poland. And the Germans are, no, that's not good. So the game, we're going to call it now. That's pretty much it. Here, the Austro-Hungarians tried to kick out the Italians and Americans and did not do really well. Got a few hits. Got a few hits on the Americans, who got no hits in return because there were 5 tanks there. But then the French came in and did some fun damage and got no hits on them because they have a couple tanks. And yeah, so this is all Austria-Hungary has left. And besides what they have in their capital, they couldn't even take Tyrolia back from the 1 infantry, and the infantry Italians got a hit on them. So yeah, things are not looking good for the CP. Mathematically, they are cooked, as the children will say these days. And that is it. So thanks so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed this 1914. We are very close to going on holiday, which is, whoops, sorry, my tripod slipped. Holiday, which starts on Saturday, and I won't be back for quite a while. I'm coming back here on the 16th, but then on the 17th I get in a car and I drive up to Sky Marshal's place up in Prince George. It's a fun little 8-hour ride, and then we're back on the 21st. So we're going to have a few weeks here without anything coming up on the channel. I apologize for that. I might get something done tomorrow, but I also have an audition I'm preparing for, and it's pretty big, so we'll see if we got time to do something short tomorrow. All right, well, thanks so much for watching, folks. As we always say here at the Hilltop Pillbox, hug your loved ones, thank your friends for playing, and may those dice be with you.